Into the sports shuffle for the first time I think ever. I'm doing a solo show, no Joel, no Zach, no anybody else, and it's going to be a first round NFL mock draft for the 2024 NFL draft that will be occurring in just under 24 hours. So all the NFL nerds like myself are very excited for that. So we're going to talk about every team, every pick of the first round. Some of them maybe a little bit surprising. We have a few trades in there. We're going to try and guess as best we can what's going to actually happen. And I'm sure after we get past pick number 2, it's all going to be wrong. So obviously, Chicago Bears on the board first. And of course, they will take one Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is the best prospect that we've had at the quarterback position for about 10 years now. His productivity in college was top notch with 93 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, as you can see in the stat bar on the right side of the screen. But he did struggle against some top 25 opponents. I know he's gotten a lot of bad press lately with the pink nails and the pink lip gloss. And yeah, we'll see how the maturity is in the NFL. We did see him a couple times break down the sideline. One very well seen video of him crying in his mommy's arms after losing to Utah. So we will see. Chicago has never had a 4,000-yard passer. Caleb Williams seems to be the guy that could break this streak, but the Bears, well, they do the Bears thing a little too often where the guy just doesn't work out. So hopefully for them, after trading away the number 1 overall pick last year, retaining Justin Fields, who they've now traded away to Pittsburgh, they get Caleb Williams, and hopefully he works out better than last year's first overall pick in Bryce Young. And we move on to pick number 2. No surprise here as well. It's Jayden Daniels going to the Washington Commanders. This seems like an all but certainty at this point. An explosive 5th year in college with the LSU Tigers, where he was the Heisman Trophy winner, a 40-4 touchdown ratio in that season. Washington badly needs a quarterback. They let Heineke go last year, and they just traded away their starter from last year over to the Seattle Seahawks. So no big deal for the Washington Commanders. Just get another quarterback because it works out so well. Hopefully this dual threat quarterback will be exactly what they need. He is extremely athletic. Worries about him getting hit and being injured are, of course, there. But Washington, number 2, no surprise, Jayden Daniels. Now, the pick at number 3 is not going to be a surprise, but we have a trade in mind, and I think this is where Minnesota goes up. I think Minnesota really, really wants Drake May. So Minnesota's going to draft Drake May with the number 3 overall pick they'll get from the Patriots here. They'll also get pick 103, giving up picks 11, 27, 129 this year, and a second rounder next year. We'll see if this happens, but of course it will be for Drake May. Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. They're probably going to get a compensatory pick, if not this year, next year, due to the tampering charges that are around the Atlanta Falcons and the signing of Kirk Cousins, so they can go and afford to give up a few extra draft picks this year to go get this guy. Drake May was on par with Caleb Williams going into the 2023 season, but took a little bit of a step back. Not all his fault. They did have a lot of the talent, offensive line talent. The receivers leave this team after the 2022 season. And when you take the talent away from a quarterback, of course, that quarterback's going to go backwards. Drake May, though, would go into a loaded situation with Addison, Jefferson, Hawkinson, and newly signed Aaron Jones in the backfield. This could be a slam dunk for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think they make the big move to go up and get Drake May. No surprises after this. Of course, at number 4, it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals. And the worst kept secret in sports is if they pick here, it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Of course, the son of Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison Sr. of the Indianapolis Colts. He has been the number 1 wide receiver for at least the last year. He's coming out of Ohio State, where we've had Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and this is arguably the best of all of them. All of them have been impact players in the NFL, and I don't expect anything different from Marvin Harrison Jr. He will pair well with Kyler Murray. He is viewed as the number 1 wide receiver in the draft. There are a few very close to him, but when he averaged over 100 yards and a touchdown per game in his final 2 seasons overall, he's a pretty surefire bet that he's going to be a stud in the NFL. He's going to be a target in fantasy drafts. He's right now the number 1 in rookie dynasty drafts, and unless you're in Superflex, of course, and I don't expect that to change. Now, should the Vikings not move up to 5, I think they move, or up to 3, I think they move up to 5 with the Chargers. But because the Vikings get so aggressive, the Chargers stand pat at number 5, and they take Olamuya. I don't know if I spelled that right. I think he goes by Uli. Fashanu, he is a right tackle. Might be surprised not like a Joe Alt or something like that, but he plays right tackle. They already have Roshan Slater. This would go in the opposite side of the line. And it seems like Jim Harbaugh's going to come in, want to do a ground and pound game. They did sign J.K. Dobbins. They did sign Gus Edwards. They're going to probably take a running back in the second or third round. There's a lot of buzz, and a lot of betting odds have said that the Chargers might go after a quarterback. They went from 100 to 1 odds when the line opened to draft a quarterback with their first pick number 5, to today as being 6 to 1. There's been some buzz that Justin Herbert could be on the move. I think that's ridiculous, but crazy things happened at the draft. But for me, I don't think they do anything drastic. I think Minnesota going up rules them out for getting anybody else to move up, because the Giants possibly might want to move up. They're one pick behind them. The Chargers aren't taking who they want to take. Denver and the Raiders are the two teams later that might want to move up. They're not going to trade in division to let a rival get a quarterback. They will make moves later, but it won't be here at pick number 5. Pick number 6. This could be J.J. McCarthy, but I think the Giants stay put. They get Malik Neighbors. They give Daniel Jones one more year. He's already under contract. You're paying him either way. Give him a top-end wide receiver. He is an absolute electric, game-breaking type. Burst out last year with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, over 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. He's possibly the best wide receiver in the draft class. Again, I think Marvin Harrison's the consensus, but this guy is right there. Over 2,500 yards the last 2 seasons. He is as surefire as they get. Malik Neighbors to the Giants would be a good fit. It would add to that offense. I mean, they lost Saquon Barkley. They need a playmaker. They need someone to sell tickets at the very least. Malik Neighbors could possibly be that guy. We go to number 7, the Tennessee Titans, and it's going to be Joe Alt. This has been pretty much in every single mock draft you see is Joe Alt going to the Tennessee Titans. Their offensive line has been horrific the last few years. He is viewed as the top offensive tackle in the draft. The Titans offense, like I said, their line's been terrible. They're going to need to get that fixed. They have Tony Pollard now. You still have Will Levis. You don't know what he's going to be. And you have DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. They did just sign Calvin Ridley. So you got to protect Will Levis to see what you have in him for the future. Also might allow Tony Pollard, who was dealing with an injury last year, to flourish in this offense. Joe Alt to the Tennessee Titans seems like a surefire bet. Getting over a little bit of an allergy or cold, so I apologize for the nasaliness. At pick number 8, we share our first defensive player off the board. Falcons are a good candidate team to move back should these quarterbacks that I still have on the board still be there. Some chaos will come soon. But I think for the Falcons, their offense with Kirk Cousins is set to be a lot better. You still have Pitts, you still have Drake London and Bijan Robinson. That's enough weaponry to be very, very good. You got a couple of other pieces, but that defense, if they take that next step, this could be a team that makes a legitimate run in the NFC. The NFC is fairly weak after the top 2 or 3 teams, and I think Atlanta could fill that void and move into that tier. If this completes in improving Atlanta defense, they were better last year than the year before. And Dallas Turner, best defensive player possibly in this draft. I think he makes a big difference. All right. Get to pick number 9, and teams start to get aggressive. I've got a trade here where the Denver Broncos move up to pick number 9, giving up picks 12, 121, and a second rounder next year. Of course, all of these could have a little bit of finagling on late round picks to just even things out, but this would be the framework. And with that, the Denver Broncos come up and get quarterback J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. He is, of course, the national champion quarterback of the Michigan Wolverines from the 2023 season, which, as you might be able to tell from my cup, I'm not happy about. But he's been the fast riser in the scouting process. I don't know why he's been the darling. He's been flying up draft boards. I mean, there's been conversations he might go number 2 overall. There were talks. I've heard rumors that, well, maybe they kick the tires at number 1. It's not going to happen. But I think Denver moves up. They get aggressive. They need a quarterback. Zach Wilson was traded to them in the last couple of days. That does not move the needle for me and change the pick here. The one knock on McCarthy is he had limited opportunity in college. He only had a high watermark of 332 attempts. If we go back and look at Drake May, 425 his senior year was the lowest of the last two. Even Jaden Daniels hits better than that, and Caleb Williams well above those numbers as well. So I think Denver gets their guy here at pick number 9 in J.J. McCarthy. Number 10, and this is where it gets interesting. Last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers moved ahead of the New York Jets via the New England Patriots to get a tackle that the Jets desperately needed. It was the big mock. Everybody wants this guy to go to the Jets because he's going to make this team full on that offensive line. And the Jets do not get him because the division rival Patriots screw them over by letting the Steelers jump in front of them. This year, the Jets return the favor as they drop from 10 to 13 to let the Raiders from pick number 13 move up to pick number 10, also giving up 77 and a third rounder next year to do so, to jump in front of the New England Patriots and take Michael Penix Jr., who I think is the last great quarterback in this year's draft. I think he's had success at every stop in college. Of course, he's had 2 major injuries. That injury concern is real. Right now, his medicals come out clear, but you have 2 major knee injuries. He is coming into the league a little bit older, and we'll see how he pans out, but he's got a very big arm, can get the ball deep down the field. He is very, very athletic, surprisingly athletic at the combine. And again, he's had good success every step of the way in college, even schools like Indiana or in Washington. They're not, traditional powers. I think the Raiders get aggressive. They move up, get their guy. Maybe he doesn't start right away. They did sign Gardner Minshew. It's possible they'll have Minshew start the season, and as Penix comes along, he will get better. But this is a little bit of comeback from last year where the Patriots let the Jets get skipped by the Steelers. Jets return the favor, let the Raiders go up and get the last great quarterback of this draft. And you might be saying, well, Patriots are 11, got to be Bo Nix, right? No. The Patriots, I think, at 11 after that trade to trade back kind of get a little bit unfortunate. They don't get the quarterback here at number 11. But as a consolation prize, they get the number 3 wide receiver in this draft. He's not far behind Harrison and Neighbors. Then they get Rome Odunze, who was not out of LSU, out of Washington. We saw improvement out of him every single college season. He got better, especially when he got with Michael Penix. He really exploded, and a great quarterback can do that. Touchdowns improved every year. Yardage improved every year. Receptions improved every year. It's what you want to see out of a wide receiver. And I think he's been great at the next level as well. But the Patriots, unfortunately for them, not getting one of those top 5 quarterbacks. I don't think Bo Nix is in the conversation of those other 5 guys. I just don't. And I think the Patriots are going to pass on this one. They will have pick 23 coming down the line with that trade from Minnesota. We'll see what they do there. Pick number 12, Terrion Arnold, quarterback out of Alabama. He's a top-end corner. It's a bad secondary in Chicago. They need the help. He's good on the ball. He paced a very good Alabama defense. This is going to be a good addition for the Bears. They're going to need guys like this in the secondary to stop the Packers, the Lions just signed Amon-Ra St. Brown to a 4-year, $120 million deal. There, Justin Jefferson, you need a top-flight cornerback to try and shut down the offenses in that division. Terron Armstead is going to be a great step in that direction. And a lot of pass defenses in what's limited opportunities because they didn't throw his way much in college. Then at number 13, the New York Jets still get Brock Bowers. This is the guy who's been mocked them pretty much every single time. I've seen comparisons to Kyle Pitts with how hyped he is coming into the league. I've seen some comparisons to Rob Gronkowski, similar play style. I'm not sure about that. I think the Kyle Pitts comparison is a little bit better. Hands down, far and away the best tight end in the 2024 draft, but this gives Aaron Rodgers another top weapon. You can put him with Mike Williams, who the reasons at least signed, and of course Garrett Wilson, who's been there, Breece Hall in the backfield. And maybe this offense, if Rodgers stays healthy, is what they were hoping they would be last year. Only time will tell. But Brock Bowers to the Jets. No major surprise here. Brock Bowers, first-round tight ends don't always pan out, so it's a little bit concerning when you waste the draft capital on a tight end early. But if he hits, this could be a guy who's like the next Sam Laporta, next Mark Andrews, next Travis Kelce. Of course, long way in a career to find out. Now we get to kind of the slower end of the draft. Some of the names not as recognizable. Laiatu Latu, the edge rusher from UCLA, going to the New Orleans Saints. They could go offensive line here. There's a lot of offensive line talent in this draft, but I have a hunch that they're going to go defense focused. This is a team that could keep other offenses from scoring a ton of points. That offense was a little bit disappointing last year. There were some issues getting on the same page with the receivers and Derek Carr. We saw Chris Olave be disappointing. Alvin Kamara, one of his worst seasons as a pro. I think they're going to try and fix the defensive side of things in the first round. It's a very deep wide receiver draft, very deep offensive line draft. There's only a few blue chip defensive players. Laiatu Latu is one of them. Best player available at this point of the draft, and I think they take him. His sack numbers, 24 in the last 2 years of college, 23 and a half. Very, very good, and this is a guy you can put on that defensive line. You got some aging players up there. It's a pick that they will take and be very happy with for a long time. At pick 15, it's Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo. He very good cornerback out of a small school. The small school always raises some questions because, well, what competition have you played? Do you think about all the guys from North Dakota State? And you know, Trey Lance, how do you do against a bigger, better group of teams that you're playing against? We saw it with Zach Wilson coming out of BYU. He is a very good corner. He's going to bolster a very good and up-and-coming defense. It does fill a very core need for the Indianapolis Colts, but those small school questions, we'll see how he does in the NFL, but he's got the talent. He's got the athleticism. He could be a very good corner in the NFL, and the Colts could be a lot better for taking him here. Not going to be a lot of analysis once we get to linemen that are coming up, by the way, just because, well, they block good and they try and protect quarterbacks. That's how it is. At number 16, I think this is what the Seahawks will do. I don't think it's necessarily the right decision, but I think that Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle out of Illinois, he is a massive inside presence. He's been getting better at the sacks. He's been getting better at the tackles, been getting better at run stuffing throughout his time in Illinois. And he's going to a very good defense that's got a pretty good defensive front. I think he'll fit in. He might not be a day one starter, but he will get on the field. And the Seahawks have had a pretty good stretch run of drafting great first round talents. And of course, they have to draft their running back in the second round, so they're not going to go offense in round number 1. That's a joke. They're not going to draft a running back, hopefully, this year after doing Charbonnet and Walker the past 2 years. Pick number 17, Talise Fuaga, the offensive tackle from Oregon State. This is a team that needs to protect Trevor Lawrence. He's the only remaining 2021 draft quarterback to be with his team. He is a great run blocker, a good pass blocker. You have Travis Etienne. You keep those guys off the turf for as long as possible, and this offense will get better. We saw Trevor Lawrence have some problems with fumbling. We had some problems with him getting, flushed out of the pocket, some injury concerns with him getting hit. So we got to keep him up and on the field, and Talise Fuaga, definitely a good option to do that. At 18, this is a monster of a man, Amarius Mims. He is 6'7", over 350 pounds. He is a absolute beast. And honestly, we've seen Joe Burrow gets hurt so many times. You want to get a guy you can put on the offensive line that can protect him. If you can keep Burrow upright, that's going to make Chase better. It's going to make possibly T. Higgins. He has requested a trade formally. They will get a wide receiver at some point, either the rest of the offseason, maybe bring back Tyler Boyd, or draft one later in this draft. Again, a very deep wide receiver class. And with Zach Moss, as of now being the starter, he can open up some run holes. So this would be a great pick for the Bengals. At some point, you have to be drafting the unsexy position. The Bengals have been drafting a lot of the flash, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, early in the first or early second rounds the last few years. And this time, get a little gritty and get Amarius Mims. At 19, this, I think, is the best defensive tackle in the draft. It's Byron Murphy II. He is a tackle out of Texas. Sack numbers a little light for what you'd expect, but good against the run. And this is a team that just lost Aaron Donald. The best way you can get him is get a just absolute beast in the middle of this defense and hope he can live up to anywhere near what Aaron Donald is. It's a very core need for the Rams, and they might be able to get the best one in the draft at pick number 19. Seems like a slam dunk if this man is available, that the Rams will take him. Pick number 20, Troy Fautanu. All these names I can't pronounce really well. You got to remember who the new offensive coordinator is. That is Arthur Smith, the architect of the massive Derrick Henry seasons in Tennessee, and the running game of the Atlanta Falcons the last couple of years. It might not have been Bijan, but he does value the running game. He values getting his running backs into space. It might be Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris and someone else that we don't even know. But They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to need a good offensive line. That offensive line has been bad for a number of years. Now you've got Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Either way, you need to protect them. And this guy protected Michael Penix Jr. at Washington. In those 2 years, he did not have the injury concerns he had at Indiana. So, I mean, it's not all one man, but this guy definitely helped keep him upright. Pick 21, the Miami Dolphins take J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. As a Dolphins fan, it seemed like every game we were losing 2 offensive linemen to injuries, and then one of them magically come back and 2 more get hurt the next week. So, if nothing else, J.C. Latham could be depth. At best, he's going to be a starter that could possibly usurp Teron Armstead as he gets older or has injury problems going forward. But this team with the great running game of Achane and Mostert, they've got elite weapons on the outside with Waddle and Tyreek Hill. If you can keep Tua upright, he's going to make a good play. The running game is imperative, and this guy can help on both sides of that equation. Pick number 22 is going to be Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Philadelphia was one of the easiest teams to throw on last year. Did not get a lot of interceptions, 3 in his Clemson career. It averages it out to just 1 a year. So probably needs some work on the ball, but good at breaking up the passes, only allowing only scoring 1 touchdown each of his last 2 years. He didn't allow them. But he's a good cornerback in a very bad position of need for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think the Eagles take him and bolster that secondary, which was a weak point for them last year. Pick number 23, back to the Patriots. They do not take Bo Nix. For what it's worth, I think that's their first pick in the second round is Bo Nix. I think he falls. It's not going to be Carolina. It's not going to be Washington taking him. I think he falls to the 35th or so pick. And that's where the Patriots take Bo Nix. They will get a quarterback in this draft, just not right now. But Tyler Guyton, one of the best offensive tackles left in this draft at this point. They need offensive line help. They need to let this running game be good. They need to protect whatever quarterback it is, whether it's Bailey Zappi, a free agent we don't know about, or Bo Nix or another quarterback they draft later in this class. They need some offensive tackle. This team needs a lot of help, which, it might be better this year to say, hey, Zappi, you're our guy this year. We're going to build around you. We're going to get some pieces. We're going to get a Doomsday. We're going to get Guyton. We're going to get several other pieces that we can use both sides of the ball, make this team more complete. And then next year we'll get the quarterback because we won't be good without one. And I think that's going to allow that quarterback next year to have more success. It's not as good of a draft class, but I think they go Tyler Guyton. Maybe they get skunked in the quarterback market this year. That's just how it goes sometimes. Pick number 24, Graham Barton, the center out of Duke. I think he goes to the Dallas Cowboys. They have an aging offensive line. They need to protect Dak. They need to protect this run game, which right now, who's running the ball? We don't necessarily know. It's right now Rico Dowdle is the number 1. We expect them to draft a running back at some point in this draft, probably second or third round. We'll see who that is. It's probably going to be one of the best people for rookie fantasy drafts or dynasty leagues. But he is the best offensive center in the draft. He can play in multiple spots in this offensive line. He's going to be a great player for who I think it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys. Pick 25. This one makes so much sense, it doesn't make enough sense that it will happen. And that's Cooper DeJean out of Iowa going to the Packers. He is a safety. The Packers need a safety for probably 3-4 years at least. He is the best safety in this draft. He helps the biggest need for the Packers. It's the safety, let alone secondary help. Great ball skills, 7 interceptions in the last 2 years. Really wasn't on the field much as a freshman. And he's just a perfect fit between the player and the team. It almost makes so much sense. I don't think it's going to happen. But honestly, if there's a team that deserves this guy, it's the Green Bay Packers, because he's going to be an immediate impact in the way, Branch was for the Lions last year. And that's what they really need. 26. I think the Bucs stay in the state of Florida and take Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State. Very high productivity, both seasons at FSU, 9 sacks each year, so he can help, in the run game. He can definitely get after the quarterback. The Bucs lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball in free agency, so he's going to help replace some of those losses, and he can be an absolute game wrecker. Arguably one of the best edge rushers in this draft, and he could just be an absolute steal at pick 26. If the Bucs go another way, it's going to be Chop Robinson, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think they go in-state, Jared Verse from the Seminoles, and I think they're going to be very happy with that pick. Pick number 27, back to the Cardinals, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cornerback out of Alabama. I think they kind of run out of the offensive linemen that they want, so they go and get a great cornerback, Julian McKinstry out of Alabama. He is going to be a great player at the next level. A lot of pass defenses, but not a lot of interceptions. But I know in the senior year, they did not throw the ball his way anywhere near as much. He was that much of a shutdown player. He's a solid tackler. And the Arizona Cardinals defense does need some players to just boost an average defense into the top half of the NFL, and Kool-Aid McKinstry can do that for them. Pick 28, the Buffalo Bills select Xavier Worthy out of Texas. They desperately need a wide receiver. They lost Stephon Diggs, lost Gabe Davis. They need to reload. I think they're going to look towards what Miami did and get a lot of speed. As, of course, Xavier Worthy, fastest 40-yard dash time in the NFL Combine's history at 4.21 seconds. I think they see what the Dolphins are doing with Tyreek Hill and can say, okay, anything you can do, we can do better. Let's get Xavier Worthy in here. He's younger. He's faster. He might just be better. I don't know if I agree with all of those statements, but he does have great game-breaking, big play ability. And if he can get on the same page with Josh Allen, he can be an immediate impact player. I think it's a guarantee that the Bills here take a wide receiver, whether it's Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman. Some of these we'll talk about here in a little bit. Some of them will be second-round picks that we're not going to talk about tonight. But I think they take a wide receiver, and I think they look in division at what the Dolphins have done. They've caused some headaches, and I think they say, let's try and see if we can't get that blueprint to replicate ourselves. Pick number 29 to the Lions is Chop Robinson. Of course, the defense in Detroit, that's the biggest issue this team needs to get fixed. They were in the NFC Championship game, and their defense just couldn't hold on to the lead. I think he's a very powerful pass rusher. He's got 11.5 sacks in 3 years at Penn State. Well, 2 years at Penn State, 1 year at Maryland. Definitely blossomed a little bit more at Penn State. He's got improving getting sacks. He did, 9.5 in the last 2 years and not terrible, but he's got to finish the play. But he can help put pressure, get the quarterback out of the pocket so someone else can make the play. And that's just as worthy. But if they can get someone on the other end of Aiden Hutchinson, the defense could get very scary very quickly. And a lot of the best teams are building from the line backwards. Pick number 30. I think the Ravens, who after signing Rashad Bateman for an extension today, they get Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. This is another big 6'5" matchup problem. Put him with Zay Flowers, put him with Rashad Bateman, put him with Mark Andrews, and put him with Derrick Henry. And the weapons on this Baltimore Ravens offense become scary. This was already an offense that was terrifying to go up against as the Dolphins, who allowed 56 points to them. And I think Lamar Jackson is the kind of receiver or the kind of quarterback that this receiver will play well with. He had Jaden Daniels last year. He's used to that, dual threat run first, sometimes quarterback. And I think he's just a great fit for Baltimore. The colors from his college match, it just seems a little too perfect to pass up here at pick number 30. Pick number 31. The San Francisco 49ers don't have a lot of holes, but they could definitely use some help on the offensive line just because you got some guys getting a little bit older up there. And you need to protect Brock Purdy and open holes for CMC. The Niners offense, it's a lot about protecting your players, letting the play develop, and letting those skill guys go crazy. I think he's the best player available at the position of need of guard for the San Francisco 49ers here. Not a lot to say. He's one of those pieces you draft, and then 10 years down the line, you go, oh, wow, that was a great pick. He really helped us out, and kind of an unsung hero of what could be a great dynastic level team, or at least a contender for the next several years. And at 32, it's going to be a wide receiver. Similar to Buffalo, they don't have any, especially now with Rashee Rice's off-the-field issues. They didn't have a wide receiver core that was worth anything last year, so they need to draft a wide receiver. I think they take him. He is 6'4". He's another big body type of receiver. Reminds me a lot of what Juju Smith-Schuster did for Kansas City a couple of years ago. So I think this would be a great fit. Anybody who goes here is going to have the opportunity to flourish. He's going to be in a position with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to be the one right away. I think Keon Coleman can do that. As the Chiefs trying to be the first team to ever win 3 Super Bowls in a row. And as my voice starts to finish up, that is pretty much it. Final round results are on the screen. And I think I'm going to sign off because I'm dying of choking. But yeah, that's the mock draft for the Sports Shuffle round 1. We'll find out the actual results tomorrow. And with that, I'm gone.